Hey you guys, I am here, boots on the ground in Calgary. I'm actually at the Skyline viewpoint right now. I'm sure you can see why they call it that. Now I'm getting a little bit squinty here. The sun's out. Beautiful day out here in Calgary. You can see the Scotiabank Saddle Dome behind me. That's where the hockey team plays. As of right now, they're getting a new stadium. You can see the BMO Convention Center just behind there. And then obviously the beautiful Calgary skyline and all that has to offer. You even got a nice little creek over here. Go for a nice little walk or a jog on a nice day like this. But guys, I am sad to tell you that I'm here in Calgary and they've just told me that they're full. There's no more room. You cannot move to Calgary anymore. Okay, well, maybe I don't mean that in a literal sense. You still can move to Calgary. You still can find a place to live and you can find jobs here in Calgary. But let me tell you, it is getting harder and harder to find all that kind of stuff. Calgary's getting so much more expensive. We're seeing that home prices are going through the roof. Rent prices seem to have doubled in just the last couple of years. And I'm gonna tell you, I have a lot of clients reaching out to me right now who wanna buy a home in Edmonton instead. You know, they're telling me that they wanted to move to Alberta, and at first they thought it was gonna be Calgary, but the more they looked into it, the more appealing Edmonton seemed to be. So today we're gonna tell you the top reasons that my clients are telling me they're choosing Edmonton instead of Calgary. So let's get right into it. All right, guys, we are back here in the studio. Now, I thought I was going to film this whole video in Calgary, boots on the ground, show you some of the city. We were out there getting some sweet drone shots in the city of Calgary. You're going to see those in the video today. But at the end of the day, I had to come home and take my kids to their swimming lessons. I'm sure a lot of you parents understand that taxi life grind. I am basically a full-time Uber for my kids at this point, and it's only going to get worse from here. They're still toddlers. But we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the reasons that my clients are choosing to move to Edmonton instead of moving to Calgary. Now, I'm going to give you the 5 most common answers that I get from my clients when I talk about this with them. Now, a lot of these clients, especially over the last weeks and months, have been looking to move to Alberta, and they originally had their sights set on Calgary, but after looking more into it and doing more research, they decided that Edmonton was a better fit for them and their families. Now, I'm going to give you the top 5 reasons that they've given me that decision was made for them, and I'm going to let you decide if you would prefer to move to Edmonton or to Calgary. Now, the first reason that I have for you today, this is one that I hear pretty often from a lot of these clients. The in-city nature in Edmonton is just so much better than what you have in Calgary. Now, I understand that Calgary has the Rocky Mountains just an hour away, and they have their own in-city nature as well. It's not just some urban concrete jungle like New York is. They have some river systems coming through the city. They've got a lot of walking trails and ravines as well, but it just doesn't compare to what we have going on here in Edmonton. Now, in Edmonton, we have the river valley coming through the center of the city, and off of that just shoots the most incredible ravine and creek networks that go through the city. I used to live in a community actually called Twin Brooks. It's on the south central side of Edmonton. And a lot of my neighbors who lived there said they moved specifically to that house or to that community so that they could be close to these walking trails and ravines that are in the community. And that's not an uncommon thing in Edmonton at all. So many of the communities here have great ravines and creeks and walking trails that you can go on. Now, I understand the whole argument about the mountains, and a lot of people move to Calgary specifically for that. But if you are an everydayer, if you like to get out into nature for more than just a weekend trip to the mountains, then Edmonton might be a better option for you, because so many of the communities here in Edmonton have those ravines, those creeks, and those walking trails. You can get out every single day, like a lot of my neighbors in Twin Brooks did. They love to get out for a morning jog in the trees, get some of that fresher, newer oxygen, and make sure that you're out in nature every day, because that's such a great way for a lot of these people to ground themselves. And there are studies, especially out of Japan, that are coming out that are saying that walking in the trees as frequently as you can, even just for 30 minutes, can improve mental health. It can improve your fitness levels, and it can improve your mood and emotions throughout the day. So a lot of people are choosing to move to Edmonton just to have that everyday nature in their backyard, those ravines and those walking trails, even the river valley that we have here going through the center of the city, something that you can get out into every single day, ground yourself, get out into that fresh nature, and start your day or end your day off the right way. Now, this second one I already know is going to make some people a little bit mad, a little angry, especially if you're from Calgary. But I was talking to a client of mine recently who had his sights set on Edmonton. Now, he had been all over the map. He's lived in Texas and California, BC, Ontario, and most notably, he spent some time in both Edmonton and Calgary. Now, he told me that the reason he had his sights set on Edmonton is because the people here were the friendliest and just the most tight-knit community that he's met in all these different places that he's traveled to
and live. And he said specifically the culture here in Edmonton is just far and away better than what they have in Calgary. Now, this isn't a personal attack. This is something that I heard from both him and some other clients and people who have lived in both cities. Now, it is a little bit of a common opinion from people who are living here in Edmonton, especially, that there's this keeping up with the Joneses kind of mentality down in Calgary where people are always trying to impress their friends, their family members, and their neighbor, maybe in a little bit of an egotistical way. Now, again, I'm not saying that you who are living in Calgary are specifically like this, but the community and the culture here in Edmonton is so phenomenal. Now, I can't speak on it because I haven't lived in Calgary. This is just something that I've heard from friends and clients, but I can tell you about what it's like living here in Edmonton. I've lived here for most of my life, about 28 years. I've been living here in the city of Edmonton, and the people here are so friendly, and it's such a great community that looks after each other. In fact, I just had some very good friends of mine who bought a house here in Edmonton. We helped them out with that transaction. And in just the first couple of days, they had several of their neighbors come knock on the door to introduce themselves, offer any kind of help that my friends needed, or bring over some baked goods. Now, this experience is not guaranteed if you move to Edmonton, so don't move here thinking you're going to get that. But it just goes to illustrate how friendly and how much the people here in Edmonton look after each other. In fact, when I was growing up, we lived on a cul-de-sac. And I remember playing road hockey in the middle of the cul-de-sac or soccer every single night with the other neighborhood kids. And there were frequent neighborhood barbecues where everybody would bring their grills to the middle of the cul-de-sac. We'd fry up some burgers and some smokies and hot dogs and just enjoy the summer nights together. Now, that's something that happened pretty frequently where I was growing up. Again, your results may vary, but I found that the people here in Edmonton are very welcoming. They're always willing to look after each other, and we've got a tight-knit culture here in the city of Edmonton. Now, this third one is definitely going to surprise some people, so don't hear the first couple words and head down to the comment section and tell me why I'm wrong. At least hear out the explanation about it first, and then you can decide if it's a valid point or not. But the third reason that some of my clients are actually choosing to move to Edmonton instead of Calgary is the weather. And yes, I said it, the weather is a negative in Calgary. Now, I'm talking specifically about the Chinooks that Calgary gets during the winter time. Now, this can be a very positive for some people who are living in Calgary. And I'll explain what a Chinook is. So essentially, it's warm air that comes up over the mountains and then comes down the mountains and into the southern Alberta and Calgary region, where you can have great variance over a couple of days or even in one day of upwards of 20 degrees Celsius. In fact, the record, I think, was a 40-degree swing in one day, but it can be minus 20. It can be a freezing day in Calgary. And all of a sudden, these warm winds come over these Chinooks, come into the city, and now it's 0 degrees or even into the plus degree Celsius here. And that can be a big benefit for people. Obviously, maybe they don't like it being so moody and they bring out all their winter clothes, and then it gets a little bit warmer and they get sweaty and then it gets colder again. But for the most part, I've heard people in Calgary say this is really nice that they can have a break from the cold sometimes during the winter. Now, the reason that I've had some clients choose to move to Edmonton instead of Calgary, and actually a family reached out just the other day because of this specific reason. But for some people, this can actually cause migraines. A lot of people notice that they're getting bad headaches and migraines during those Chinook, those warmer days. I'm not going to be an expert. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how it works. I think it's something about the pressure in the air, but it can cause these migraines. And so some people have actually found relief by moving to Edmonton instead of Calgary, where it might be colder during the winter, but at least you get the consistent cold. You don't have the back and forth and all these pressure changes. And they said that they found relief from the migraines by moving to Edmonton. I'm not sure if there's specific scientific studies on that, but they are finding relief in just having that more consistent temperature throughout the winter in Edmonton instead of Calgary. So again, the Chinooks might be the right thing for you. You might enjoy those breaks from the winter cold, even if it's just for a day or two. But for some people, those Chinooks cause large problems and they decide to move to Edmonton instead of Calgary. Now, getting right into reason number 4 that some people are choosing Edmonton over Calgary. I am not saying this is a reason that you should choose one city over another entirely. This should not be the only factor that you decide to base your move off of, but it is something that I've heard. In fact, just the other day, I had a client who moved to Edmonton, big hockey fans, and they were more excited about the Oilers than the Flames. Now, the Oilers are significantly better than the Calgary Flames right now. These are the NHL teams in both cities. The Oilers have had several deep playoff runs over the last couple of the years. We have 2 of the top 5 players in the entire league, the entire NHL, in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and that just generates buzz around the city. If you're a sports fan or a hockey fan at all, then yes, it's going to be more exciting to be an Oilers fan right now. Now, humans can be a little bit creatures of the moment. Right now, Edmonton is better than Calgary. That will flip-flop over the years and the decades. But right now, it is much more exciting to be an Oilers fan than a Flames fan. The Flames just missed the playoffs. They fired their GM and their coach. Their arena, although it looks really cool and iconic, has had nothing but issues. They're getting a new arena deal that the entire province is paying for through taxes. But it's just more exciting to be an Oilers fan right now. There's a palpable buzz in the city. People are very excited. You can talk to just about anybody about the Oilers, and they'll be excited to generate that conversation with you. It's an exciting time to be an Oilers fan. And for some people, that's enough to push them over the edge and move to Edmonton instead of Calgary. Now we're going to get right into the last one. Thank you for sticking around this far. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're finding value from this content. But you know what? The last reason, this is the big one. I hear this from every single person who reaches out to me about living in Edmonton instead of Calgary. And you know what? This isn't even people who are choosing to move to Edmonton instead of Calgary. This is also people who are moving to Edmonton from Calgary, and that is the affordability. Now, both of these major Alberta cities are actually quite similar. They're a little bit similar in size. Calgary's a tiny bit bigger than Edmonton is. And the home prices used to be fairly similar across these two cities, with Calgary being a little bit ahead, a little bit more expensive than Edmonton is, but that gap has done nothing but widen over the last couple of years. Calgary has seen a huge boom of people moving there, both from Ontario, from BC, and from out of the country. There are so many people moving to Calgary from other places. They've seen this huge boom, and because of that, the real estate prices in particular have skyrocketed. Now, I pulled the information for June 2023. This is current right now. This might not be current when you're watching this video. If you're watching this a few years down the road, they could be closer, they could be farther apart, they could be very different than what they are right now. But as of the time of filming this video, you're looking to pay about 60% more, even for just a one-bedroom apartment, up to 70% on detached single-family homes. So for example, a one-bedroom apartment here in Edmonton is going to run you a little less than $1,100 per month on average. In Calgary, that number goes almost all the way up to $1,800 per month on average. You're paying almost $700 extra to get into Calgary instead of Edmonton. That's 60% more on your month-to-month rent prices. Now, if we take a look at single-family detached homes, that gap is even wider at a $200,000 difference. In June of 2023, we are looking at about $450,000 for the median price on a detached single-family home in Edmonton. In Calgary, that number is north of $650,000. And this is leading a lot of people to choose to move to Edmonton just to get a higher quality of life, more bang for their buck, and have more money to spend on their hobbies and things that they like to pursue instead of pouring all of that into housing. And like I mentioned, this is also leading especially younger families to choose to move to Edmonton from Calgary because they feel that over the last couple of years, they have been priced out of their city and they have to go find that home ownership somewhere else. So again, if you are looking to move to Edmonton, if you're coming from Calgary or coming from anywhere else and you decide that this is a city that you want to be in, go ahead and reach out to me. I'm going to have my information in the top comment. I'd love to help you buy a home here in Edmonton. Now, maybe you watch this video and you decide that Calgary is the right city for you, and I'm very happy for you. I've got partners in Calgary I'd love to connect you with as well if you're looking to purchase a home there. Now, guys, if you are finding value from this video, if you've made a decision one way or another, make sure to subscribe so that you can keep getting value from this channel. And if you haven't quite decided yet, well, I've got some other videos that you should check out that'll make your decision a little bit easier. So click on one of them now.